Algebra 2, Lesson 71, the quadratic formula. In case we didn't talk about it in class, quadratic formula is a formula that you get from using complete the square on a quadratic equation. Specifically, so out of focus. This one right here. If you use complete the square on this equation, you get what's called the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula looks like this. So this little bit right here. It's on lesson 71 in your textbooks. For those of you that have the older edition, that's going to be page 287. You can either bookmark this page or you can write it down. Either way, you must memorize this equation. And we'll probably have it on a quiz eventually. So, here's my equation over here. And here is my example. Ta-da, magic. And we're going to talk about how this equation works with this example. First thing you need to know, if you're going to use quadratic equation, you need to solve your quadratic for 0. So let's go ahead and start moving things across the equation. We'll subtract 3x and then we'll subtract 28. Cancels, cancels. This side of the equation is now 0. This side is going to be x squared minus 3x minus 28. Ta-da, my equation is now set for 0. Next, we need to understand what the letters A, B, and C are. If you remember that quadratic that I showed you, the example, it said this: ax squared plus bx plus c. So use complete the square on this, you get this. So what this means is the a term will always be the coefficient of x squared. The b term will always be the coefficient of x, and c will always be the whole number at the end. So if we were going to put this in terms of the quadratic equation, our a term is going to equal positive 1. Our b term is going to equal negative 3. Yes, it carries the sign with it. And our c term is going to equal negative 28. So all I have to do now is take these three letters, or these three numbers, plug them into these three letters in this equation, and solve. It's very similar to your plug-in problems and your algebraic expression problems from Algebra 1 and pre-algebra, and also this year. That's kind of why you've been doing these last few years, is to prepare you for these types of equations and plugging things into functions and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So my goal now is to rewrite this quadratic equation using these numbers. So I'm going to start with negative b. And again, if I'm going to properly substitute anything, it must be inside of parentheses. So negative b is going to be negative, parentheses, negative 3, end parentheses. Then I have plus or minus square root of b squared, which is going to be parentheses, negative 3 squared, minus 4 ac. A is just going to be 1 in parentheses. C is going to be negative 28 in parentheses. And then all of that all over 2 times a, which is 1. If I can simplify this, I have my answer. So let's start from the radical. We'll work our way in inside out. So I've got negative 4 times 1, and that's just going to be negative 4. Then I have negative 4 times negative 28. Let's go ahead and use a calculator to figure out what that is. No, let's not use a calculator. Let's negative 4, well, 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 20 is 80. 80 and 32 is 112. Hey, so we've got positive 112. So I've got the square root of, so this is going to become plus 112. And negative 3 squared is just going to be positive 9 because the negative gets squared in this case. So I have the square root of 9 plus 112, which is going to equal, let's see here, 121. Square root 121. So that's what that equals. Let's see here, negative 3 is just going to become positive 3, so I have 3 plus or minus the square root of 121 all over 2. What is the square root of 121? Well, it's actually 11. So this can simplify even more to 3 plus or minus 11 over 2, which means I have two possible answers. So let's go with the first route. If I do 3 plus 11, that's going to be 14 over 2, which equals 7. So 7 is one answer. So I've got 7 or, and then if I did 3 minus 11, let's see here, that gives me negative 8 over 2, which is going to equal negative 4. So my two answers are 7 or negative 4. And that's how you solve using quadratic formula. It's not much more complex than that. You memorize the formula, solve your equation for 0, find A, B, and C, and yes, it absolutely does help if you write them out this way. A lot of you are going to try to be really fast and do it in your head, and you're going to make simple mistakes like writing positive 3 instead of negative 3. It really helps to substitute if you write everything down on paper. From there, once you have your memorized formula, you just substitute B in all the locations B is, and then make sure you substitute inside of parentheses. Can't stress that more. It's one of the things I try to tell you guys the most, and it's the thing that most people cut out, and it causes the most errors. If you substitute inside of parentheses and you know how to use your exponents and your negative signs, you'll never have an error. So substitute inside parentheses and then just simplify the expression as much as you can until you can get one or two answers. That's it for this lesson. If you have any questions, let me know on Moodle, and I will see you in class.